packed crowd. It's a super day. Everybody's geared up. We're just about to start racing. I think it's a very open meeting. I think it's going to be very hotly contested. But I think that I have a good chance. I'm sure several other riders do. I think it's going to be great viewing.
Thank you, Kelvin Tatum. The British finals traditionally held here at Coventry, 23 years now, as the 16 of the cream of Britain's riders battle for 10 places in the Commonwealth final at King's Lynn, to be joined there by 6 from New Zealand and Australia. To race here, the top 8 from the semi-finals at Reading and Wolverhampton have earned their places. 3 from Ipswich, 2 each from King's Lynn, Bradford, Eastbourne and Arena Essex, and a rider from Reading, Poole, Coventry and Cradley, together with the lone second division man, Kenny McKenna from Edinburgh. Poole Steve Schofield is the oldest at 36. Paul Hurry at 19 from Arena Essex is the youngest. Hurry, along with Ben Howe of Ipswich and McKenna, contact their first British final. The other 13 have all been here before. Well, alongside me is Peter Collins. He's been here before. 12 British finals to his name. Peter, what's the atmosphere like and how tough's it going to be?
Well, thanks, Tony. It's going to be brilliant today. I've got a beautiful day with the weather, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be very exciting.
From your point of view, though, track conditions this afternoon with the sun out could be a little bit tricky, perhaps?
Well, possibly. I think the track will probably dry out pretty quick, but it looks nice and grippy to me, and we've got a great field of riders, so I'm sure it's going to be a really good meeting.
Well, looking down that list of riders, Richard Knight and Jeremy Doncaster, Mark Laram and Joe Screen, all in the first heat. Joe Screen, a man pretty close to your heart, Peter, and I know perhaps you fancy him to win this meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of been with Joe ever since he started, and I'm looking forward to Joe winning this meeting at some time or other during his career, and I'm hoping that today might be the day.
Well, we have, of course, the young and the old. In the second heat, we're going to see Steve Schofield. He started Speedway a bit late, but I know you've ridden against him.
Yeah, he's a real nice chap, Scully. I really get on great with Scully, and he's one of the characters, and I'm really thinking that Scully could be a good man today.
And Gary Havelock, of course, world champion himself a couple of years ago, always somebody to pose a threat.
Yeah, well, Javi's certainly a character, isn't he? Just seen him on the parade with his fancy hat and everything, and he's very outgoing, and ability-wise, he's absolutely brilliant, as he's already proved. So I think he'll be a major threat today.
Yeah, I think it's just come to qualify and you can come on stuff. Got to win every race and try and win the meeting. And, you know, I think it's the second biggest meeting for a British rider to win, apart from the World Championships, is the British title. And, you know, I certainly want to try and get a third one in the bank.
I want to regain the trophy and keep it. But other than that, if I get top 10, I'll be happy.
I just come here to qualify. The main aim is to get to the World Final and then say I'm going to win it. You know, when I'm getting to the World Final, I'll be happy. Until then, I just want to qualify through these rounds.
It's a very hard meeting. The thing is, I'd rather come here and qualify comfortably. If I actually win the meeting, I'll be pretty happy with that. But the main issue for most of the riders here is to qualify.
It's my first one since 1990, since breaking my back, where I finished runner-up. So it's nice to be back in a meeting of this sort, and hopefully I can put in a good performance.
Well, obviously I've come here to win it, you know, as have 15 other guys as well, so it'll be a tough meeting. Normally I manage to qualify, so it'll be nice to go out there and win it, you know, today.
My Arthur boys are like a couple of jumps ahead of me, but hopefully if I make a few starts I'll be able to we'll beat some of them, but until I'm up to them stages, then I'll just have to take it as it comes.
Well, there we are then, 16 of Britain's top riders competing for 10 places for the next stage of the World Championship. We just wonder who's going to make it. So the lineup for heat number 1 on the inside in red will be Richard Knight from King's Lynn, a 35-year-old who was born in Cambridge. He made his British final debut in 1986. He started with Mildenhall 16 years ago. 5 times previously in the British final. He reached the World Final back in 1991. Richard Knight from King's Lynn in red. Jeremy Doncaster from Ipswich is 33 years old, born in Grimsby. Now back at Ipswich after 5 seasons at Reading. In 1989, he was 3rd in the World Final. Today marks his 9th appearance in the British final. In the white helmet colours is Mark Laram of King's Lynn, a 23-year-old who was born abroad in Malta. He started with Hackney at the age of 16. He's now in his 5th season with King's Lynn. Today marks his 4th appearance in the British final. A broken collarbone kept him out at the semi-final stage last year. In white, Mark Laram. Already up at tapes there in the yellow and black helmet colours is Joe Screen, one of the favourites for this meeting, a 22-year-old from Chesterfield, the current under-21 champion of the world. A £32,500 transfer in the closed season from Bellevue to Bradford. Runner-up in the British final last year. Today, his 4th British final. He raced at Pocking in the world final last year and is certainly now just about Britain's top rider. That's the lineup from the inside. In red, Richard Knight. Jeremy Doncaster in blue in gate number 2. In gate 3 in white, Mark Laram, and Joe Screen on yellow and black in the outside. As the starting marshal goes away, on the way from the tapes they go, and it's Jeremy Doncaster into the first bend first. Going wide is Screen, he's in the back. In second place, Richard Knight. Jeremy Doncaster out front, pursued by Richard Knight. The lads from East Anglia are there. Coming round to the outside in white, that's Mark Laram. Keeping going, and Joe Screen amazingly tailed off at the back. Peter Collins alongside me. What's the problem for Joe Screen?
Well, Joe made a bad start there from the outside, and he doesn't seem to make any ground up at all. He seems to be not making any ground. I can't see him overtaking at this stage.
Well, no problem out front for Jeremy Doncaster, the veteran in front, pursued by Richard Knight. The two who are over 30 are having the better of the youngsters, because Mark Laram is back in 3rd. And at the rear, Joe Screen is tailed off almost at the moment with just over a lap to go. A big surprise this in heat number 1 as Jeremy Doncaster sails out front in the blue helmet colours, the number 2 on his back, pursued by Richard Knight. And they're really in procession here down the back straight as they come to take the checkered flag. It's Jeremy Doncaster that wins this one ahead of Richard Knight and Mark Laram, and Joe Screen desperately disappointing. Peter Collins, a sad tale for Joe Screen.
Yeah, you can't substitute experience, and Jeremy Doncaster just hopped out the start there, and it shows you with all his experience he just sat there and kept clean, and some of the main threats were way behind him.
Well, here we come, and let's see the start here with Peter Collins.
Well, you can see Joe off the outside. He tries to come across, realises he's not going to make it, and then he gets tangled up with Mark Laram, and he gets pushed very, very wide on the first corner, and as you see Donkey there in the blue, he's away clear, and Joe's really taking all the dirt, and basically he never made up the ground. I think he's going to struggle the way he's going.
Well, all the problems then for Joe Screen at the start. That's where it counted, and that's almost how they finished. It was won by Jeremy Doncaster in blue, 3 points to him. In second place, 2 points for Richard Knight in red, and third, Mark Laram in white. He gains a race point.
It's a little bit slimy at the moment, it's a little bit wet, but I think we'll get good later on.
You know, I couldn't do anything. You know, you didn't see a pass, did we? So, you know, it's early days, you know, but got the first one up, so, pull my finger out of the next one.
Here we go then with heat number 2. The man in the red helmet colours on the inside gate is Dean Barker, a 23-year-old who was born in Isleworth. He made his 2nd division debut at 16, a British finalist a couple of years ago, 3 seasons with Oxford before returning to Eastbourne this year, where he's doing really well. That's Dean Barker in the red helmet colours. In blue in this heat, David Mullet, a 29-year-old who started his career with 2nd Division Canterbury at the age of 16. He was born down in Kent at Folkestone. This is his 4th British final. He won the semi-final at Reading, which is his home track. In blue, that's David Mullet. In the white helmet colours, that's Steve Schofield. Steve, 36 years old, the oldest rider in the field, born in Mitcham in Surrey. He started Speedway at 22, a top grass track man. He's ridden for Weymouth, Hackney, Wolverhampton, and now pulled 2 previous British finals. Kelvin Tatum in yellow and black, of course, very experienced on this track here at Coventry. Kelvin is 30 years old, born in Epsom, a former Brighton College boy. Twice previously the British champion in 87 and 90. 8 previous finals, 6 times on the rostrum. 6 seasons with Coventry. He certainly knows the track. That's Kelvin Tatum. That's the lineup. This is heat number 2. On the inside, Dean Barker. Dave Mullet from Reading is next to him. Steve Schofield from Poole in white, and Kelvin Tatum on the outside. The starting marshal goes away, and off they go on the inside. It's tight with Barker holding it. Going wide at the back, Kelvin Tatum. They're having trouble from the outside gate, but Barker is sailing away up front ahead of David Mullet. But there round the outside goes Kelvin Tatum, but Steve Schofield holds on. Peter Collins alongside me. Once again, the man from the outside at the back. That's Kelvin Tatum. He's in trouble.
Well, that first ride proved as well as this second one at the outside gate's looking very difficult. Kelvin made a bad start again off gate 4, and I think that's going to be the real bogey start position.
Well, certainly knows that problems out front for Dean Barker. The youngster from Eastbourne is sailing away, already some 30 yards in front of the 2nd place man, David Mullet. Barker absolutely wheel perfect coming round the top bend. in pursuit, but certainly not looking like overtaking him is David Mullet. In white, Steve Schofield, the Paul grass track man, is going steadily, and at the back though, Kelvin Tatum could be in trouble. Here we go as they come up to take the checkered flag, and that's going to go to Dean Barker. Barker takes it and does a wheelie. In pursuit, David Mullet in second place. In third place, once again, the man in white, Steve Schofield. From inside to out, that's how they finished. Red, blue, white it was. Dean Barker, David Mullet and Steve Schofield. For you, Peter Collins, disappointment for Kelvin Tatum, but Dean Barker looking good.
Well, I think we're going to be in for a very exciting meeting there. Some of the favourites are really struggling, and some of the lads who you thought possibly weren't going to qualify are actually going really well. You can see from the start, again, Barker off the inside. He makes a good start. Tatum's pushed wide again off that gate 4, and Barker's just not involved with all the rest of the other riders. He's just gone and he's away.
Certainly Dean Barker went away there and kept it, and that's virtually how it stayed. The heat won by the rider in red, Dean Barker, 3 points to him. Second place in blue was David Mullet with 2, and third in the white helmet colours, that's Steve Schofield. That's how they finished.
Dean, you were nearly celebrating a bit early there.
I mean, I come out of the last corner, I was sort of relaxing a bit going in. I just found the biggest bit of drive I've ever caught in my life. And I nearly turned it over going across the line, but, you know, I held on to it.
What goes through your mind in that split second?
Oh dear, that's what went through my mind, and nearly filled my pants up.
Here we go then for heat number 3. That's Gary Havelock in the red helmet colours, a 25-year-old from Cleveland who rides for Bradford. In 1992, he was the world champion, succeeding the likes of Peter Craven. Peter Collins is with me this afternoon, and Michael Lee. Twice he was British champion, 91 and 92. Today he's in his 7th British final. In red, on the inside, that'll be Gary Havelock. That's Martin Dugard in the blue helmet colours, a 24-year-old from the heart of Sussex, now known as the Cincinnati Kid, something to do with some sponsorship he's got. The Eastbourne captain in his 10th season in the sport. Of course, it runs in the family. 5 seasons at Oxford before he returned to Eastbourne last year. Today in his 6th British final, runner-up in 91. Last year, he was the overseas champion. That's Martin Dugard. In the white helmet colours is Ben Howe, another product of the Eastbourne Training School. He too born in Sussex down in Crawley. One time he was the Eastbourne mascot. Runner-up in the British Under-21 Championship. Fought Australia with the Lions in the winter. This is his British final debut. In white, Ben Howe from Ipswich. And Andy Smith, the current British champion, the 28-year-old from Yorkshire. A former grass track rider, certainly a home track specialist here at Coventry. 5th in the world final at Pocking last year. Today, that's his 10th British final. He's the current British champion. In yellow, that, of course, is Andy Smith. There are, at the gates there, holding back a bit is Gary Havelock in red. Already up at tapes in the blue helmet colour there, Martin Dugard. In white, we can just see Ben Howe, and on the outside is Andy Smith. Here we go. This is heat number 3. Havelock away quickly on the inside. Having a go from the outside is Andy Smith. Coming through on the inside is Ben Howe. Competition here, but once again, it's Havelock out front, pursued by Dugard in white. Battling at the back, once again, the man from the outside, Andy Smith. Once again, Peter Collins with me. The man from the outside track is struggling.
Yeah, you said it, that outside seems to be bad news, and there seems to be a lot of dirt on the track, actually, so the inside lads are getting loads and loads of grip. The track looks in very good condition, to be honest.
Perfect for racing, it seems, but no trouble to Gary Havelock out front. There's Gary Havelock in the zebra-like leathers, leading very much as he pleased. Behind him is Martin Dugard. Coming through there into 3rd place, Andy Smith using his track knowledge, and now battling with a lap to go to take Dugard for 2nd place. A lovely piece of passing there by the British champion. Dugard goes wide, Smith goes into 2nd place. Havelock's out front though. Havelock's going to win this one, but now problems because Smith in turn goes wide. Martin Dugard is going to finish last here. The heat is taken by Gary Havelock. Andy Smith coming through in 2nd place. Ben Howe 3rd in white. Real disappointment for Martin Dugard. Another fancy competitor coming in last. That one went all the way of Gary Havelock. Peter Collins, he looked good.
Yeah, Havelock's been there before. He's ex-British champion, ex-world champion, and you can see he's got class there. Luckily, he got the inside gate, which is a great advantage at the beginning of the meeting. Poor old Andy Smith there made a bad start off 4, but I mean, he rode really well to get 2nd place.
Well, there we are. Havelock certainly had it right, and Andy Smith made it there to show what he can do on this track, and really is going to make a challenge throughout the afternoon. The advantage of riding on your home track, Peter, quite important.
That's right. Andy's ridden at Coventry last season, and it was his home track, and he goes very well here. Of course, Andy won this meeting last year, so this isn't a new experience to Andy.
This time, the world champion, Gary Havelock. There's the checkered flag. He's seen that before, even in a world final. So, 3 heats gone. The excitement building here. Heat number 4 just coming up.
Yeah, had a good start there. But mate, thought that'd be right. What more? See what happens.
So, for heat number 4, the youngest man in the field, that's Paul Hurry from Marina Essex, born in Canterbury, just 19 years old and the current British under-21 champion. A one-time Hackney mascot was he, a top grass-track rider. He's making his British final debut this afternoon. In red, that's Paul Hurry. In blue, Simon Cross. He knows what a world final's like. Simon's 29 years old now. He's had a few problems. He broke his back in the World Pairs back in 1991 and retired from the sport last year before changing his mind. Today's his 6th British final. Not since 1990 has he been here. He was runner-up then. I can tell you he's a good golfer. Very appropriately, he has a handicap of 11, slightly less than he has on his back this afternoon. In blue, Simon Cross. In white, that's Chris Louis, a great year for him last year. 25-year-old Ipswich-born son of the current England team manager, John. He started with Hackney. He was the world under-21 champion in 90, but he reached his peak last year, 3rd in the world final at Pocking. This is his 5th British final. That's Chris Louis. And in the yellow and black helmet colours on the outside there is Kenny McKinnon. He rides for Edinburgh, of course. He's only Knight and Doncaster in this field are older. He's waited 16 years for his first British final. This is it, the only second division rider in the field. Scotland's top rider. On the outside, that's Kenny McKinnon. So there we are, from the inside, Paul Hurry in red. In blue, Simon Cross. In gate number 3, in white, number 3 in the world final last year, Chris Louis. And Kenny McKinnon on the outside. Here we go for heat 4. And away they go. And there into the first bend. Once again, the man on the inside is Paul Hurry. But going by him, Simon Cross in blue. And coming away in white is Chris Louis. But once again, Peter Collins, that outside gate is causing problems.
It is. I know it'll get better, I think, as the day goes on. As the sort of dirt moves out, I think 4 will be better. But again, the inside gate see the favourite. Blue's winning again.
Well, it seems that Paul Hurry is going backwards in red, because out front there is Simon Cross. He's looking back. He's trying to look back. 2 laps complete. The Cradley rider is wheel perfect there and looking good. Chris Louis getting into gear and pursuing him down the back straight in white. But now, in yellow and black, Kenny McKinnon could even go by the unfortunate Paul Hurry. But perhaps not, because with a lap to go out front is Simon Cross. Pursuing him, Chris Louis doesn't look as if he's going to catch him. Paul Hurry should hold 3rd place. But at the back, the unlucky yellow and black helmet colours are telling for the only Scotsman in the field, Kenny McKinnon. The checkered flag there goes to Simon Cross. A good win for Cradley, who aren't having things too well for themselves in the league at the moment. 2nd place to Chris Louis. 3rd was Paul Hurry, the youngest man in the field, and Kenny McKinnon was tail off. Well, there we are. Yes, that going the way of Simon Cross. Heat winners so far from their first heats: Jeremy Doncaster, Dean Barker, Gary Havelock and Simon Cross. All going well for them. But Joe Screen, Kelvin Tatum and Martin Dugard, internationals all, and men who so far have found it pretty disappointing.
It was important for me to make a good start there, and I managed to, fly from the tapes and just hold a consistent line when I was riding around, and I knew exactly where Chris Louis was, and just didn't let him get any closer.
Here we go then for heat number 5, and the man to watch here, the man in white, that's Dean Barker, the 23-year-old who rides for Eastbourne. Won his first heat almost as he pleased. He looked fast, he looked to know what he was doing on the track. He had no problems and no mistakes and got all 3 points. In white, that's Dean Barker from Eastbourne, going from gate 3 in this heat number 5. Just coming into picture there, Richard Knight, going out again. Richard Knight is a man who's back at Kings Lynn, one of the older riders in the field. A creditable 2nd place in his first ride, that was in heat number 1. In blue, Richard Knight goes from gate number 2. Coming up on the inside there in red, Scott Kenny McKinnon. Unplaced last time out, looking to pull it back. The only 2nd division rider in the field, Kenny McKinnon from Edinburgh. Right on the outside is Ben Howe from Ipswich. This heat could be competitive. The man to watch could be Dean Barker. Here we go. This is heat number 5, and away they go. On the inside, coming away is Kenny McKenna, but Barker is looking fast out front, and there he goes down the back straight. Dean Barker in front, pursuing him in yellow is Ben Howe, and coming inside to hold out Kenny McKenna. McKenna's back in third at the moment, and trailed off at the back rather surprisingly is Richard Knight, but Dean Barker out front is looking fast, looking good. Where is he getting it from, Peter Collins?
I don't know. He seems to have the right setup today, that's for sure. He looks very, very fast, very much in control. His bike seems perfect, and he's making some beautiful starts. If he keeps going like this, we could be in for a big surprise today.
Dean Barker could almost be set for a maximum already. He's looking fast. He's about 30 yards in front. There he is, the young man from Eastbourne, giving him a bit of a battle. Well, certainly is a battle in the back. In yellow and black is Ben Howe in second place. Kenny McKenna is in third, but now coming round on the outside is Richard Knight, trying to take him but not succeeding. But no such problems out front for Dean Barker. The young man from Eastbourne takes the checkered flag for the second time in the afternoon. Dean Barker wins that one. Second place goes to Ben Howe, and third to Kenny McKenna. A first point of the afternoon for him. We see the start of the race again, just to see where Dean Barker made it with Peter Collins.
Yeah, he's looking very sharp on the start. You see the tape goes up and he lifts slightly, but he gets it together, and when he gets to the corner, he sort of just runs round there. Perfect start. Just left the others. He can't see the others. He doesn't know what's going on behind him, and he doesn't care, and why should he? Very, very good first corner.
Well, that's where it told for Dean Barker, and after that it was all easy going. The winner in white was Dean Barker, second place to Ben Howe from Ipswich, and third came Kenny McKenna, the Scot in red.
Can you believe this? Not at the moment. I mean, there's 2 good starts I've made now, only 3 to go. I just got to, never qualified for the next round, so if I can just keep my cool, I think a couple more points to see me through to the next round, but now I'm on the hunt for the title. If I can do all right in my next ride. I mean, it's early days yet, anything can happen. There's a lot of good riders here who can still get points.
In white, Jeremy Doncaster, he won the opening heat of the afternoon ahead of Richard Knight. That was a heat for veterans, that one. But 3 riders here, each with a heat victory behind them. Simon Cross in red. In white, Jeremy Doncaster just behind him. And in blue coming up there, that's Gary Havelock, of course, identified by his leathers. The other man in the field, Steve Schofield from Poole, the oldest rider here this afternoon. That's the lineup. This is heat number 6. This is heat 6. This is important for at least 3 of the riders that go away, but this time the man from the outside, Steve Schofield, is competitive, and he goes round the outside in flying style. That is a magnificent ride, a magnificent first bend from Steve Schofield, and now the battle's on behind him. Peter Collins, the man from the outside, did it there.
Absolutely, Scoey made a beautiful first corner. I mean, he didn't make a particularly good start, but he went round the outside of the others, and he's got a nice lead there, and it's going to be difficult for the others to get him now.
With 2 laps to go, Havelock's been fast, though. He's back in third, but Schofield's having no problem out front. In second place, Simon Cross is turning on the power, and Gary Havelock is struggling. Not so much as Jeremy Doncaster at the rear, because he's not on the races in this one. Out front, though, Steve Schofield certainly is. Age no barrier to the little fella from Poole. Steve Schofield is out front. Pursuing him is Simon Cross. Havelock's having another go down the back straight, but there's no problems out front. Here comes Havelock taking it wide on the final bend and trying to get through, but he can't pass Simon Cross. And that's a triumph for Steve Schofield. Simon Cross rode brilliantly in second place, and Gary Havelock in third. Something of a surprise, Peter.
It was, wasn't it, really? The track's starting to change now pretty quickly. It's changed like from the last race, to be perfectly honest. The outside tends to be seeming to get quite grippy now, and the inside is very, very slick.
Here's the start then, Peter, and that's where he made it on the outside.
Yeah, you see Schofield, he makes only a half-decent start, but when he gets to the corner, he's got his leg just in front of the rider next to him. He gets a good run around the outside, and as I said earlier, the inside of the track is the dirt's now moved out to the outside, and Schofield is going to capitalise on that, and he goes round the other 2 absolutely beautifully.
This is going to be an interesting afternoon if the going, as you might say, changes like this.
That's right. I mean, Havelock did very well later to sort of catch up and get second place.
Well, there we are, heat number 6. A surprise there, won by Steve Schofield in the yellow helmet colours. 3 points for him. Second place to Simon Cross and 2 points in red. Third, Gary Havelock in blue, just 1 point for him.
Okay. No problem. Cheers. Bye.
Congratulations on the heat win. What was the phone call about?
Move myself on the start a bit, don't get off my bike, get up there and stop delaying the start, basically. So it's my own fault, I should have got up there early, but there you go, not to worry.
So it wasn't for anything that you did wrong in the race?
I don't think so. No, there was nothing wrong in the race, it was just a matter of, I want to dig around at the start and do my gardening, get up there quick, so I have my rucking, so now we're on good terms, hopefully.
The white helmet colours in gate 3 there is Dave Mullett, who won his semi-final at Reading, his home track. David, a second place in his first outing, looking to qualify here this afternoon. And in the background on the outside, that's Mark Laram from Kings Lynn, who came only third in his first ride. This is heat number 7, full of hopes for all of these, and they need the points. Here we go from the gate on the inside, and the man in white this time it is Dave Mullett who's in front, but Dugard goes through on the inside. It's competitive because coming wide is Mark Laram, taking them both, and Dugard caught unawares as Mark Laram powers into the lead at the end of lap number 1. Mark Laram trailed there by Martin Dugard back in second place now, and Dave Mullett in third. This quite a race. Peter Collins alongside me and a bit of passing to boot.
Well, absolutely. If you notice again, that race is again being won from the outside gate. I mean, the outside started off absolutely terrible, and now we've had the last 2 races sort of being won or just about from the outside start.
Well, there we go. That looks as if Mark Laram, barring mechanical accidents, is going to complete this one as he comes round to complete lap number 3. Mark Laram is in front. Martin Dugard is second. David Mullett is third. And way at the back is young Paul Hurry, who looks to be a little bit out of his depth. There's almost a quarter of a lap between Laram, who's going to take the checkered flag in a moment, ahead of Martin Dugard. And in third place, David Mullett. That belongs to the young man from King Lynn. Mark Laram in yellow, Martin Dugard in red, and in white was David Mullett. A triumph there for Mark Laram. Peter Collins alongside me. We can see it from the start, I think, as to exactly how it happened.
Yeah, you see Mark there on the outside. He lifts slightly on the gate. As he gets toward the corner, he sort of legs it down, but he rides a very, very brave first turn. And like I said earlier, the outside is beginning to get faster, and Mark gets pushed wide. I think Martin Dugard lifts slightly there, but Mark just keeps going round that outside. The gap's getting smaller, but he just manages to squeeze through. That's great.
Well, there we are, heat number 7, and it finished with the man in front in yellow and black was Mark Laram. 3 points for him. Second place to Martin Dugard in red. Third in white was Dave Mullett. There is Joe Screen, so disappointing in his first outing and looking to a lot better in this heat number 8. Joe Screen trailed in last from the outside gate. This time he's got the inside. Peter Collins alongside me. You said the power is now going to the outside gate. How big a handicap is this going to be for Joe going from the inside?
Well, I think the outside is probably getting better, but it's still got a very good chance from gate 1. But Joe's got it all to do, hasn't he, basically? He's got 4 rides left, and he's got 1 ride gone and no points. I mean, the pressure's really on him now. He must finish in the top 10 scorers to qualify for the next round. I think his chances of probably winning this meeting are a bit slim now. He's got no points, but I'm sure he's going to be trying his best.
Well, controversy early here because Joe Screen hasn't scored, and also with him Kelvin Tatum there in blue. He hasn't scored either. He who knows this track like the back of his hand came in last in his first outing as well, so he too needs the points. In blue, that's Kelvin Tatum.
Kevin, what's the problem with Kelvin's bike?
It's something wrong with the clutch. It's dragging him into the start. And when he revs the motor up really hard, it pulls him into the starting tapes, and he has to ease it off and pull back. And then the tapes go up and he's left there. He's not ready to start.
Already at the tapes in white, some man who does know the track, a second place last time, and the British champion last year from Coventry is Andy Smith. That's Andy Smith in gate 3 for this one. Andy Smith doing a bit of gardening there to make sure that he gets just the start he wants. On the outside, we can see in the background there Chris Louis. He too just a second place first time out, and he's going to be looking for points. This promises to be really competitive, Peter. The start's going to count, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, this meeting is absolutely wide open. A lot of the favourites are struggling, so it's going to be so interesting.
Well, heat number 8, here we go. Let's just see what happens from the tapes, and away they go in line. In blue, it's Kelvin Tatum who takes the lead in blue, and Joe Screen has still got a lot to do because he's back in third here. But going round the outside is Andy Smith, the Coventry man who won this title last year. Tatum holds him off. Screen goes through. The battle is joined out front between Tatum and Screen. They're doing the business this time, Peter.
Yeah, Andy Smith was right in there, but I'm afraid Andy tried to go round Kelvin and went too wide, and Joe was right on him, and Joe pounced in there. Joe took second place from Andy there, and now he's got Kelvin Tatum in his sight.
It's going to be difficult to go past him, but he does it. There goes Joe Screen, a lovely piece of speedway riding, but Tatum's going to have another go because there's plenty of time yet. Joe Screen goes wide. Kelvin Tatum holds his line. It's Screen, it's Tatum, it's Louis. This is some speedway race, this one. There goes Joe Screen with just over half a lap to go. Now he's making it show. Tatum's losing ground. Screen out front is going to win this, and the pressure is on Tatum from behind. But there goes Joe Screen to take the checkered flag. Kelvin Tatum in second place, and for my money coming through, Andy Smith in white getting a single point. Well, we can look at this race right from the start. Peter Collins, this is how it happened, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Kelvin makes the start again, drops the bike on Joe Screen, stops Joe altogether, and Joe gets pinned on the inside. It lets Andy Smith run round the outside of Joe. Andy sort of pulls ahead on the straight, and of course Andy goes by Kelvin Tatum, or thinks he is, but Kelvin realises there and runs Andy a bit wide. Joe sees this, who's third, and Joe nips in there, takes Andy, and now he's got Kelvin lined up. It was a hard look there for poor old Andy because he was certainly in with a big chance, but Joe saw his chance and he was in there. I mean, there's no favours in this kind of meeting. As you can see, Joe is chasing, he's just waiting for his moment. They're both riding now the outside of the track, which is becoming the quickest way round. And then you see Joe here change direction. I don't know where he finds this grip from up the inside, but he surprises Kelvin and just goes by him absolutely beautifully. That was great speedway.
2.5 laps to go, still there, and Joe Screen had no problems beyond that point, and Kelvin Tatum appeared to lose ground. But the interesting bit's going to come up at the end of the final lap, because it seemed that Andy Smith held off Chris Louis, and that's quite a shock if Chris Louis failed to score in this heat. But there's Joe Screen out front, Kelvin Tatum inside him, Chris Louis going a shade wide. What about Andy Smith at the back, Peter?
Well, it's a shame for Andy because, I mean, he was almost in front. He had his wheel in front at one stage, and just really, he was unfortunately on the outside. He was pushed wide and went virtually from first to, well, was he last or was he third?
Well, right on the line, the referee awarding that one, no doubt about Joe Screen in red. In second place, Kelvin Tatum in blue. But the third place going to Andy Smith, the current British champion in white. 1 point for him could be valuable.
I made a good start, but I didn't get the corner first, and I got trapped on the inside, and the boys tried coming around me. And I think Kelvin tried to run Andy a bit wide going in, and I just got underneath Andy, and then set Kelvin up, and I got past him there. Well, I have to move him out of the way if I go past him. Tiring though.
Well, first of all, we've got to change the tyre around, so we've got a new one on. And we're going to change carburetors from one bike to the other. I think the other one runs better. And I was lacking in speed in that last race, and Screeney was just able to nip me at the end of the straight, so try and get something so it works a bit quicker, you know. I could hear Joe coming, and he managed to get some extra speed at the end of the straight, and he was able to push his way underneath me, which was a tremendous move by him. But I was a little disappointed to lose out, but 2 points is better than none, and it was a tough race, but probably a good one to watch.
Well, with each of the riders now having had 2 outings, it's Dean Barker sailing away there with 2 heat victories and 6 points. In second place, Simon Cross with 5. Tied up on 4, we have Mark Laram, Steve Schofield, Gary Havelock and Andy Smith. On the 3-point mark, Jeremy Doncaster, Joe Screen, Dave Mullett, Ben Howe make it competitive. On 2 points, Richard Knight, Kelvin Tatum, Martin Dugard and Chris Louis. 1 point apiece for Kenny McKenna and Paul Hurry, but at least everybody's got off the mark. Here we go then for heat number 9, and we're waiting at the gate for the man on the inside, Steve Schofield, to come up. Such a shock last time for him. He's on the inside. In blue, Chris Louis next to him. Richard Knight in gate 3. Martin Dugard on the outside in yellow. And Dugard goes round the outside, comes wide, puts the pressure on and shows speed down the back straight to goodbye them all. There's Martin Dugard going right round the field and into the back straight in front. The battle joined behind. This is an important one for Chris Louis, who's in second place with only 2 points to his name so far. Going through the inside is Steve Schofield, and now battling on the outside is Schofield and Louis in second place as Schofield takes that second. Peter Collins more overtaking in one race than we've seen in several years here.
Yeah, and it's still going on. I mean, what a good race, what a first corner, and there's such a lot of excitement. Scoey's back in there.
There goes Steve Schofield then. What a brilliant piece of riding. Dugard's keeping the throttle on and trying to come round the outside, but Schofield is holding the line with a lap to go. Steve Schofield in front, Martin Dugard in second place, Chris Louis is third. Can Dugard do it? Can Schofield hold it? Here comes Schofield in front, Schofield in red, by a length and a half from Martin Dugard in yellow, and Chris Louis back in third. That was really some race, that one, but Steve Schofield records his second successive heat victory and already looks almost certain to qualify, and that was really quite a race. Let's watch it again with Peter Collins.
Yeah, it's really proving that we've got some great racing today, some great passing. If you look there, Schofield's on the inside, but the quickest way round again now is the outside. Dugard goes round Steve there, takes him, and Dugard tends to run now wide, staying out on the outside, and Schofield is almost overtaken again by Chris Louis, who's also absolutely desperate for points. Scoey seems to be back in third, but Steve tends to carry on riding the inside line again, and he's still there, and he's not giving up, and he's trying, and it looks as though carrying on that inside is going to pay off for him, because you can see now he's getting right up there now with Dugard, and Chris Louis can't do anything about it because there's no way for Chris to go. He can't go inside or outside.
In this heat, you almost need eyes at the back of your head to see what's happening.
Well, there's such a lot going on. You see Steve Schofield, he gets some grip there up the inside, right off the curb, which was very unusual, sort of as the dirt's moving out, and he's in there, and he pushes Dugard wide, and he's got the lead, and he's going to take it.
Well, there's Schofield with a lap to go, and he makes no mistake in the rest of the heat, and the 3 points he's taken there take him up to 7 points, and that looks like almost automatic qualification for the next stage, and the others still have to battle for that. Well, there he is, Steve Schofield coming round the final bend, and that really Martin Dugard puts some pressure on, but Schofield holds him off ahead of Martin Dugard. Third place to Chris Louis, and that's how it stayed. Heat number 10, and there in the blue helmet colours is the surprise packet of the meeting so far this afternoon. 2 rides, 2 wins, and each of them easy for Dean Barker, the youngster from Eastbourne. In the white helmet colours there, the youngest rider in the field is Paul Hurry. It's not going too well for him, just a point to his name so far, and he goes from gate 3 here this afternoon in this heat number 10. Coming up on the inside there in red, Andy Smith. All competitor is Andy, and he has a great chance here because he's had a second place and a third place so far. He knows the track, he's been up against good riders, and he's done it all before. On the outside, that's Jeremy Doncaster. The yellow helmet colours. He won his first race, but finished last second time out. Here we go, heat number 10. Away from the start, and in blue, it's Dean Barker once again, but no, coming through on the inside is Andy Smith. Barker has another go. Barker has the speed. Smith has the track knowledge here. Paul Hurry making a battle of it, but losing out as he goes wide on that top bend. Now out front is Andy Smith. Can Dean Barker catch him? Peter Collins, how would you say about it where Dean Barker is?
Well, Dean seems to be going really quick, and Andy knows this track very, very well. It looks like Andy Smith's going to hold him. Dean Barker missed the start that time, and I think this race is going to be Andy's by the way it's going.
Yes, it's getting a bit more dusty now, and Andy Smith knows which part of the track he wants to go on. And with just over a lap to go, the man in red from Coventry looks like having this race in his pocket. Barker, though, with this second place, will be certain of qualification for the next stage. In third place is Jeremy Doncaster, who has a lot of work to do, and tailed off at the back is Paul Hurry. But the honour here belongs to Andy Smith, and he takes that as he pleases, ahead of Dean Barker. And in third place there was Jeremy Doncaster. No points at all for Paul Hurry. Let's have a look at the start, which really Peter Collins says was missed by Dean Barker.
Yeah, Dean is the only rider at this stage who's unbeaten, and of course Andy Smith there is off gate 1 on the inside, and he gets there first and he pushes Dean out wide on the first turn. Dean tries to cut back up the inside, but I'm afraid that Andy's sort of home track knowledge has got the better of Dean here, and Andy's going to sail away, and there's no touching Andy now.
Well, there we are, the honours, the glory and the points there belonging to Andy Smith. He won it in red. In second place, Dean Barker, who now still leads the field, and third was Jeremy Doncaster. Coming through on the inside in red is Kelvin Tatum. Kelvin Tatum, of course, disappointing, last in his first outing. Fancied to go close to taking this title. Only a second place, second time out. Still has it all to do. Problems too for Mark Laram in white. Mark Laram goes from gate 3, just 4 points so far. And from Ipswich, Ben Howes, the man in blue there, adjusting his neckwear. And he needs the points as well. This is heat number 11. Pursuing him too is Simon Cross. Mark Laram has made it to the front, having gone round the outside of Kelvin Tatum, and now coming through the inside is Simon Cross, and Tatum's back in third. A lot of ground lost by Kelvin Tatum there, Peter Collins.
Yeah, I'm afraid Kelvin just got pushed back there. I think the youth of the riders sort of shone through there. Mark Loram rode a very brave first corner again, and Simon Cross, mind you couldn't say he's got youth on his side, but Simon came under Kelvin there and just pushed him out the way, so unfortunately Kelvin got the rough end of the deal.
Well, no rough end for that man in front there in white, because Mark Laram is looking very, very good indeed here, and these 3 points will take him towards qualification. Simon Cross too will do him in second place. It'd be nice for both of those if they can qualify before the end of all. But Kelvin Tatum has a lot to do as we come to take the checkered flag, and Tatum doesn't get there. First place goes to Mark Laram in white. Second place there goes to Simon Cross in yellow, and Kelvin Tatum has a lot to do as he finishes third in red. It wasn't so much on the start there, Peter Collins, but the passing again told down the back straight.
Again, absolutely. Mark did a very, very good corner, and the way he went there, I mean, I think he's trying to make up really for last year, because he broke his collarbone just before the semi-finals last year, and he wasn't involved in the World Championship at all, and he's got a lot to prove this year, and he's definitely sort of on course now to qualify with 7 points.
Well, he's gone into the pits there looking very, very happy indeed, and a real triumph for Mark Laram. He won that heat. In second place, that was Simon Cross, and third was Kelvin Tatum. So, Gary Havelock, the world champion 2 years ago. This is heat number 12. He's still a fair bit to do in his remaining 3 rides, but 4 points and his quality should safely see him through. He needs really 3 from his 3 rides. The white helmet colours, the young man from Bradford, zebra-like leathers, that's Gary Havelock in white. The blue helmet colours, that's Joe Screen. So much trouble first time out, but so brilliant second time out. Going from last to first and taking the heat by a street. Joe Screen in blue. Kenny McKenna, the old man from Scotland, 16 years in Speedway before reaching his first British final, but here he is, and proud this afternoon in red. Kenny McKenna. This is heat 12. Away from the tapes, and it's Havelock that makes it into the first bend, but is taken wide, which allows McKenna to go through on the inside, but Havelock has the speed. He goes on the outside. Joe Screen goes on the inside, and now the battle is joined between those two men who ride for Bradford. Havelock and Screen. Screen and Havelock. Havelock takes the inside. Screen's going wide. Screen goes up and gets it down just in time before taking a perler. Screen has held it. Havelock is out front. This is good speedway, Peter Collins.
Absolutely. That was an enormous wheelie that Joe Screen just did there. He's going to run round, have a look again this time. This time he'll try not to get the front wheel up so high, but he's going.
Well, there, Havelock is still holding him. This is superb speedway. Two of the best riders in Britain, and they're out front now. With a lap to go, it's Gary Havelock from Joe Screen. Screen the younger, Havelock the more experienced. Havelock a world champion. Screen hoping he will be one day. Havelock in white, Screen in blue. There they go. It's competitive to the end. The Screen battles through. And I think Screen may have just got that on the line ahead of Gary Havelock. What a superb speedway race. In third place was Kenny McKenna. And what happened at the back to Dave Mullet? Nobody cares. Two of Britain's top men, and certainly disputed that. For my money on the line, Joe Screen might have just held on to it. We'll have to wait and see. Well, let's see it again with Peter Collins, because this was some speedway. The skill that Peter himself is proud of. And one of his protégés, Joe Screen's in here.
That was some race. I mean, if you see Kenny McKenna there elbow Joe Screen on the side of the head and actually push him into Gary Havelock. So Joe had got all the work to do here. He really has got it all to do. Havelock's got a good run there on the outside, and McKenna's in there mixing it with two potential, well, one world champion and a potential world champion. And I can't believe how hard they're both going. McKenna's in there and he's still not giving up, but Joe Screen is trying everything here, and he's on the inside of Havelock. Kenny's coming. Kenny's still on the outside and he's still in there. As they come down the back straight, Joe Screen decides to try the outside, and as he's sort of running around the outside of Havelock here, he gets an enormous amount of grip and pulls a wheelie. I've never seen such a wheelie in the middle of the bend, but he still doesn't give up. He's still going.
A brilliant piece of speedway riding by both of them, really, and really to make us think what we miss so often in speedway. This passing is something here, Peter.
Well, absolutely. I mean, Joe's still going, and he's got another about 2 laps to go, and Havelock's not even looking behind. If you notice, he's just going as quick as he can possibly go, because he knows for a fact that Joe Screen is going to be all over him at the back. And Joe comes alongside him here, but I don't think he's going quick enough there, so he changes his mind. He realises he won't get through this time. And he's still out there, he's still lining Havelock up, and Havelock's just going as quick as he can possibly go. We've got 1 lap to do now as they start the last lap flag. Joe goes on the outside, he goes off the picture here, and he's out there in the dirt getting all the grip he can. He's lining Havelock up now to make a long, long straight. He gets the wheels in line as he goes down the fence here, and then he takes a dive. As he gets to the corner, he dives for the inside. Havelock's trying to cover all the track, and Joe's in there and he gets a load of grip on the inside. As I think there, Dave Mullet fights the dust, and Screen sort of takes it as they come onto the last straight, and he's taken it by about 6 inches.
There we are, right on the line. The referee awarding the heat to Joe Screen, and well-deserved, if I may say so. A fantastic battle. Gary Havelock shakes his hand. They know it was a battle. Joe Screen wins it from Gary Havelock. Kenny McKenna in 3rd place.
Yeah, I thought I made a good start again, but Kenny McKenna took us all wide, and I thought I might get a run. I chased Gary for a lap, did a big wheelie there. But no, I just got him on the line, I think. Hard work, I'll tell you, really hard.
So, with 12 heats gone and 8 to go, Dean Barker's in the lead with 8 points. Mark Loram and Steve Schofield each have 7, along with Simon Cross. Joe Screen, Gary Havelock and home track specialist Andy Smith are on 6. Jeremy Doncaster and Martin Dugard 4 apiece. Dave Mullet, Ben Howe, Kelvin Tatum and Chris Louis all on 3. Richard Knight and Kenny McKenna on 2, and Paul Hurry just 1. 8 heats to go, and 10 places up for grabs in the Commonwealth final. Right now, we're on to heat number 13. On the inside is Dave Mullet in red. 3 points so far for him. Andy Smith in blue has 6, and virtually close to qualifying. Simon Cross would appear to already have qualified. He's in the white helmet colours in gate 3. And Richard Knight on the outside in yellow and black has an awful lot to do. Heat 13, Mullet, Smith, Cross and Knight going from inside to out. Andy Smith is out front again, and this would take Andy on to 9 points if he wins this one and a place in the next round of the World Championship. Andy Smith, who won his last heat, somebody's engine sounds awfully rough there as they go around the top bend, and at the rear it's Dave Mullet who seems to be in trouble. But Andy Smith has no such problems, and he's in the lead, ahead of Simon Cross in second place, and Richard Knight in yellow and black. But all sorts of problems for Dave Mullet, and it doesn't look as if he'll finish. He's out of your picture with his engine misfiring all over the place. Andy Smith takes the yellow and black flag with 1 lap to go in blue. The rider from Coventry is out front and set for a place in the overseas final. Simon Cross in second place is also short of a place there. And in third place in this one is Richard Knight, who's struggling still. The heat won by Andy Smith in blue, second in white, Simon Cross, and third in yellow and black. That was Richard Knight.
Martin, you've left yourself with a bit to do in the final stages.
Yeah, I've just got to knuckle down now and see how many points I can score in the last couple of races. It's going to be hard, but the Speedway come and go, and I've gone.
But Dugard in yellow and black, it's vital for him, and it's also vital for the man right next to him in white, Kelvin Tatum, who would have been fancied by many to win this meeting, but only has 3 points so far, and we're already at heat 14. As the tapes go up, the start is vital, and Martin Dugard on the outside is chasing. He's picking up speed and coming round the outside, and now trying to get through, but in blue out front it's Kenny McKenna. That's something of a surprise. Martin Dugard moves into second place past Jeremy Doncaster, and problems at the back for Kelvin Tatum, because if he doesn't get a point here, the chances of qualification for him, other than through a ride-off, are virtually nil. Out front there in blue, though, now is Kenny McKenna. The battle in second place, there is some battle there. Martin Dugard in yellow, Jeremy Doncaster in red, but quite a surprise this, Peter Collins, for Kenny McKenna out front.
Well, that's right. Kenny seems to be really enjoying himself, although Martin Dugard has just gone up the inside and overtaken him. Kenny seems to be slipping back now.
Well, Kenny McKenna going backwards, just as I say, because he's now back in last place, but trying again. But Martin Dugard is out front, and this is vital because this should ensure qualification for the Eastbourne captain. Martin Dugard in yellow takes it. In second place in the red helmet colours there, Jeremy Doncaster right on the line, and third place grabbed, I think, by Kelvin Tatum in white. So it means there that Tatum still has a lot to do, and Martin Dugard seems to have ensured qualification. But real disappointment for Kelvin Tatum, because it was the second division rider, Kenny McKenna, that edged third place, and Kelvin Tatum with 3 points all day and just 1 ride to come, now looks to be out of the World Championship.
I'll tell you exactly how it's going before you go out. Yeah, we got one more ride. Hopefully, if we can string another win together or another 2 points, it would be okay. We didn't win the meeting, but we would have qualified, and that would have been the main aim. So we just have to wait and see now.
So heat number 15, a vital one for Chris Louis, third in the world final last year. 2 rides to go, and he needs to scramble together at least 4 points from those 2 rides to make qualification for that overseas final. And on the outside, the man of the meeting so far in yellow and black, that's Dean Barker. If he can beat the 3 more experienced riders here, who knows? Away we go. This is heat number 15. On the inside and through in blue is Mark Moran. Barker's coming through to chase him in yellow and black. Ram holds on in blue. In white on the outside is Gary Havelock. The referee has stopped the heat for some reason. There's going to be a restart. We have to wait and see what's caused the problem. Well, apparently a problem at the start there, Peter, with the rider in blue, who was warned for moving forward.
Yeah, looking at that, Tony, I think Mark Loram tried to anticipate the start, and he moved a fraction of an inch before the tape went up, and luckily he managed to get away before he actually caught the bottom tape, and he made a flyer of a start, and I think the referees decided to bring all 4 riders back.
So the restart of Heat 15 on the inside. Chris Louis desperate to qualify for the Commonwealth final, the next stage of these championships, and so far with just 3 points from 3 rides, well, really, the respite given by referee Frank Ebden could provide the difference between qualification and not, because when they got away, Chris Louis was really struggling. Mark Ram got away quickly enough. That was the cause of the stoppage. He's in gate number 2. Gate 3, Gary Havelock. The outside is Dean Barker. This is the restart of Heat 15. Away they go. And it's Havelock on the inside. Barker's going to make ground as he picks up the grip on the outside. On the inside is Louis back in 3rd. But Barker's going fast. He's chasing Havelock out front. Another fine speedway race among some quality riders here. Peter Collins, anybody's race.
Anybody's race. I mean, Dean Barker's really surprising us today. I mean, he's in there and he's almost going past Gary Havelock. But it's some race, this one.
Mark Moran locking up his tail off at the back there now, which gives an opportunity to Chris Louis to come through, and he has into 2nd place. The Rams seem to get in the way of Barker in some way, but Barker's having another go. Really competitive speedway, but a vital ride for Mark Ram here, a vital ride for Chris Louis, a vital ride for Dean Barker, and a vital ride for Gary Havelock. But no problems now to Havelock out front. We're on the last lap. Louis is chasing. He needs the points. Gary Havelock needs the points, but Gary Havelock's going to win this one. In 2nd place in red, Chris Louis. Dean Barker is 3rd, and now all of those could qualify, although Chris Louis would need 2 points from his final outing to make sure he does. The winner there, without any shadow of doubt, was in white, Gary Havelock. Chris Louis in red took 2nd place, and Dean Barker in 3rd in yellow and black. So we can watch the final stages of that race with Peter Collins. The battle was joined in front with Gary Havelock in front of Dean Barker. Chris Louis coming through, Peter.
Yeah, an absolute terrific race here. I mean, you couldn't really see who was overtaking who, because the action was just coming thick and fast all the time, and the positions were changing. But Havelock didn't actually get flustered. He just stayed there. He just kept going, and he was unaware again of what was going on behind. But this has actually thrown the meeting wide open, because Dean Barker, who was in with a big chance of winning, has actually just dropped 2 points. So the actual outcome of who becomes British champion now is just absolutely wide open.
Well, it means that Gary Havelock and Dean Barker are all out there, along with Andy Smith and with Simon Cross. So there's going to be some battle here as to who's going to take this meeting as we come up now to heat number 16. And in this one, Steve Schofield and Joe Screen battling for points to qualify. Ben Howe and Paul Hurry have problems. So for heat number 16, Steve Schofield has really shown us what he can do here this afternoon. He's in the blue helmet colours in this heat. The little man who rides for Paul in the British League. It's taken him a long while to become one of Speedway's top riders, but here this afternoon he's shown that he's well in that calibre. He looks set to qualify for the Commonwealth final of the World Championship. In blue, that's Steve Schofield. In white on the outside, slightly hidden from us, is Joe Screen. He gave us a fright when finishing last in his 1st heat. He certainly gives us some thrills in winning his next 2. And Joe Screen now really needs 1 or at most 2 points to ensure his qualification. That's Joe Screen in white. The man in the yellow and black helmet colours, the youngest rider of the field on the outside, that's Paul Hurry. And right on the inside in red is Ben Howe. This is heat 16. Up go the tapes, and once again the battle is joined, and they go really wide. Screen is taken wide by Steve Schofield, and Joe Screen has to come through, and he does with a vengeance to go almost from last to first. What a battle here. Going wide on the outside is Paul Hurry. Steve Schofield is out front. Joe Screen's going to have to produce some fine speedway here to hit the front, Peter Collins.
Joe got an almighty turn of speed down that back straight. I don't know where he came from, but he's very, very lucky to stay on the bike, to be perfectly honest, but he's in there mixing it.
Well, Steve Schofield, though, has got plenty of speed, and he's out front, and he nearly knocked Joe Screen off on that bend, so it's quite something. But with a lap and a half to go, there doesn't look to be any doubt that Steve Schofield is going to win this. He's riding with style, he's riding with flair, he's riding with speed, but let's look to second place, because this is important. Joe Screen and Paul Hurry are dicing. It's Screen and Hurry, Hurry and Screen. Screen's taken wide by Hurry in second place there. But here they come to take the checkered flag. Schofield's going to win it. Screen gets through into second place, and Paul Hurry takes third place. What a race that was. A marvellous piece of riding by Steve Schofield in blue. Joe Screen battled all the way, and in the end, good value for his second place, and still with a chance of being the British champion. The start was quite important, the first bend equally so. Peter Collins.
Yeah, Joe's there. He sort of makes a half-decent start, Joe, but when he gets to the first bend, he gets a terrible knock going into the first corner. I don't know how he actually stayed on the bike, because he got pushed very, very wide. I mean, he's completely off the picture here. He's probably 10 yards behind, and then he turns back up the inside, and he takes two riders in one go, actually, down the back straight, and he seems to be going so fast. I thought he was going to take all four of them through the fence at that stage, but he's got such good control. He stays with it. He doesn't get caught up with anybody. He pushes the rider in yellow a bit wide, but actually he's paid for this speed on the straight by losing a bit coming out of the corner, and he goes back to third again.
Steve Schofield, though, the man who, once he made that manoeuvre on the first bend, took to the front and held it. Joe Screen was involved in all sorts of battles, but in the end, the win went to Steve Schofield. Joe Screen, a well-earned second place, and in third place, the youngster, Paul Hurry.
It's terrible, really, because you come here trying to qualify, and then you're in with a chance of winning, and like, if you come second, it's not good enough, you know, so, yeah, let's hope I'm in the top three. I'll be very happy with that.
So, everybody has one ride to go. Some men are certain of qualifying, and the leader with 10 points is Steve Schofield from Poole. In second place, jointly on 9, we have Dean Barker, Gary Havelock, Andy Smith, and Simon Cross. On the 8-point mark is Joe Screen. All of those have a chance of taking the British title. Several still have yet to make sure of qualifying. Mark the Ram looks to be there with 7, but struggling somewhat. Jeremy Doncaster on 6 has yet to make sure. Chris Louis, he's only got 5. He finished third in the World Championship last year. He still has a lot to do. And among those who still have to battle for a vital place, Martin Dugard on 7 possibly has got there. But Ben Howe, Kelvin Tatum and David Mullett on 3. They are struggling, as is Richard Knight with the same points total. And Kenny McKenna, the sole Scot in the field. He has just 3. Qualification looks almost impossible. Heat number 17. In blue, that's Kelvin Tatum. And really, even if he wins this heat, the best he can possibly hope for is possibly a ride-off for a qualification place. It's going to be tough. If the mathematics work out, maybe, just maybe, with 6 points he could qualify. But that's a surprise for the young man who spent 5 years riding on this track and really knows it like the back of his hand. In blue, that's Kelvin Tatum. In yellow on the outside is Gary Havelock. The way it's working out this afternoon, he has 9 points. A heat victory could give him 12, and that would give him the opportunity of being the British champion. Here we go. This is heat 17. Away they go, and on the inside is Richard Knight hugging the bend, but going out front is Kelvin Tatum showing purpose there. Chasing him, Gary Havelock from the outside. It's Tatum and Havelock with Richard Knight in third place, and at the back it's Paul Hurry, the youngster from Arena Essex, who really is finding it going a bit tough in this meeting. With nearly a lap and a half gone, Kelvin Tatum is out there ahead of Gary Havelock and Richard Knight. Kelvin Tatum needs these 3 points to have any chance at all of qualifying. Gary Havelock so far has 9. This would take him to 11 if he holds this second place with a lap and a half to go. We don't seem to be having quite the action we've seen in previous heats here, Peter Collins.
No, Kelvin Tatum really seems to be riding the ride of his life here. To sort of be ahead of Gary Havelock like this when he needs points so desperately. I mean, he's doing extremely well. If he can hang on to these 3 points, it could be enough to see him qualify, but we can't say at this stage.
Well, here we are. It looks as if he hangs on to the 3 points because he takes the checkered flag now ahead of Gary Havelock and Richard Knight. So Kelvin Tatum has got the 3 points. That's all he can do at this point. So let's have a look at it from the start and just see how Kelvin Tatum made it and how he held it at the front with Peter Collins.
Yeah, the pressure's absolutely really on here for Kelvin, and he makes an absolutely beautiful start there from the middle. Gary Havelock's out there on gate 4. Gary was hoping to win this to tie up the British Championship, or certainly be in the running, but I'm afraid Kelvin's in there. His experience has sort of taken over, and Kelvin's on his way to the 3 desperate points he needs.
And for Richard Knight, well, a 3rd place there, some consolation, but he's certainly not going to qualify. And Kelvin Tatum might. Gary Havelock certainly does. The heat won by Kelvin Tatum, ahead of Gary Havelock and Richard Knight. Well, here we come for Heat 18, and Chris Louis, so much the British Speedway hero when he finished 3rd in the World Final back in Pocking that last September, has only 5 points to his name so far, and really needs at least 2 points here to stand a chance of qualifying in this heat number 18. Chris Louis in yellow and black. The struggle's on too for Jeremy Doncaster in blue, who will be seeing the picture there, because Jeremy too has just 6 points. He needs to get something to have a chance of qualifying. The outside in yellow and black is Chris Louis. Just backing away there in white is Dave Mullett. Chances of his qualification somewhat remote. And Ben Howe too on the inside. Mullett and Howe both have 3 points as we start this Heat 18. Up go the tapes and a flyer there for Jeremy Doncaster that takes him into the first bend first. The battle is on behind him. Coming round wide on the outside is Chris Louis. This is what he needs to do. He's got to put the pressure on, and he's got to get by Doncaster really to stand a real chance. If he can win this heat, he'll certainly qualify. If he comes second, he could do. He's battling to do it. Doncaster out front ahead of Louis. The Ipswich pair having this between them. David Mullett is being challenged at the back by Ben Howe, who also rides for Ipswich at the moment now with Howe coming through. It's Ipswich 1, 2 and 3 with 2 laps to go. It's Doncaster ahead of Louis, ahead of Howe, and at the back it's David Mullett. Chris Louis for the moment looks content to sit in that position and ensure a 7-point total and no accidents, and that should or could just about get him qualification. But out front and in the lead is Jeremy Doncaster, ahead of Chris Louis, ahead of Ben Howe, and ahead of the back of David Mullett. There goes Jeremy Doncaster. The 3 points here will give him qualification. Doncaster takes it, ahead of Chris Louis and ahead of Ben Howe, and certainly the front 2 in that heat should have a chance of qualifying when we work out the mathematics. 10 go through to that stage, the Commonwealth final at Kings Lynn. But it looks as if Chris Louis has just about made it by the skin of his teeth. It really does depend upon how the remaining 2 heats work out. That heat won then by Jeremy Doncaster ahead of Chris Louis and Ben Howe. So, heat number 19. This is an important one because both Steve Schofield, who's on the outside, has 10 points, and Andy Smith in the blue helmet colours, who'll go from gate number 2 with 9, have a chance of taking the British title. At the moment, Gary Havelock has already banked from his 5 rides an 11-point return. It looks as if he'll be overtaken, and then the title race is wide open. On the left-hand side of your picture is little Steve Schofield, the shortest rider in the field. Yellow and black helmet colours. Perhaps he could be British champion. If he wins this heat, he will be British champion. Andy Smith in the blue helmet colours, hidden by the post. He has a chance as well. And here they go, away. It's all leaving Schofield at the back because Mark Laram comes through in the inside. Round on the outside goes Andy Smith. Andy Smith could get 3 points here and take him onto a 12-point return and give him a chance at the title. Here in second place, though, is Mark Laram. Back in third is Steve Schofield. 1 point would take him to 11. Right at the back is Kenny McKenna, and he's not going to qualify. But Andy Smith certainly is going to qualify. He certainly looks as if he'd be on the rostrum, and it could be taking gold. Andy Smith out front, ahead of Mark Laram. He's in second place. Steve Schofield's come through to third place, and at the back, that's Kenny McKenna. But out front, Andy Smith with a lap and a bit to go. The young man from Coventry who won the British title last year is certainly making a bid to retain it this year. Andy Smith almost wheel perfect. Coming through in second place is Mark Laram. Steve Schofield's going to make a bit of the top bend, but that little fellow out front, Andy Smith, punches the air. He takes it ahead of in second place Mark Laram, and in third place, coming through there, is Steve Schofield. So all of those are qualified. Some of them are on the rostrum. Quite a race that was, but Andy Smith certainly looking good, and he has a chance with that points total of retaining his British Championship crown.
Yeah, Andy seems to be in real form now for this last race. He seems to have got his act together completely, and he knows that he's got to win this race, and he's looking now towards winning the British Championship again. And the 3 points from this race is going to put him at least in a run-off for that first place. So Andy's sitting pretty there.
Yes, so Andy Smith finishes with 12 points, and at the moment, that's the target to be set. There are still people who can catch him. Dean Barker and Simon Cross coming out in heat 20, start that heat with a 9-point return, and if either of them were to win it, then they certainly would share a ride-off with Andy Smith for the title.
If Joe wins it, then I'll be champ, otherwise I'll have a run-off, and then I've got to do it on the track.
There is Joe Screen, who can't reach the 12 points of Andy Smith, but Joe came back from the dead here, and on his bike, you see at the front there, a little camera, and let's hope that we can see some of the action as seen through the eyes of Joe Screen with that camera on his bike. Here we go for heat 20. Up go the tape, Dugard's away on the inside at the moment in red. It's Barker on the inside. Dugard is chasing him in white. Coming round on the outside in yellow and black is Joe Screen. Some real action there as Screen chases Dugard round the outside. Screen goes round the field, Dugard lifts, and Screen goes out in front. If it stays like this, Andy Smith will be the British champion, because only Dean Barker and Simon Cross could catch him, and neither at the moment is in a position to do so. But it's some style here from Joe Screen, Peter Collins.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe's going great in this race, and then the way he's going, it will decide actually the outcome of who's going to win the championship today. It looks like this is going to give it to Andy Smith. Joe's he's going to make no mistakes in this race with his camera on board.
Well, there's Joe Screen going round there, certainly showing us what a fine rider he is, what a great prospect, and how much we were deceived by that last place in his first heat, because he hasn't looked back since. There is Joe Screen taking the checkered flag ahead of Martin Dugard, Dean Barker and Simon Cross in that order. And that means that although a marvellous ride from Joe Screen, it's Andy Smith who's retained the British title. Some celebrations there from Joe Screen with a massive wheelie down the back straight. Cameras and all, Joe Screen showing us just what Speedway's all about. And we've seen 20 heats of magnificent action here this afternoon. Joe Screen has provided the spectacle. Andy Smith has provided the style and skill out front. And Andy Smith has taken the British title, but it's a meeting that'll be remembered. So the point scorers show Andy Smith with 12 points as the new British champion. Not the new British champion, he's retained the title he won here at Coventry last year. A ride-off for second place will be shared between Joe Screen, Steve Schofield and Gary Havelock, each of whom finished with 11. Dean Barker totaled 10 and qualified along with Jeremy Doncaster, Mark Laram, Martin Dugard and Simon Cross with 9, and Chris Louis scraped in with 7. The non-qualifiers led by Kelvin Tatum. That a surprise on a track where he's ridden for a lot of his speedway career. Richard Knight with 4, Ben Howe with 4 failed to qualify, as did Kenny McKinnon and Dave Mullet each with 3, and the youngest rider in the field, Paul Hurry, with 2.
Fantastic, brilliant. After last night, I had such a bad meeting. I didn't know what was going to happen today, but everything's gone my way again. Really tough, brilliant.
I think you probably want to go and say a big thank you to Joe now, don't you?
Definitely. I'm going to kiss him. Good one. Good one.
Nothing.
In blue, Steve Schofield, the man who's produced so much for so long this afternoon and could have been the British champion just 1 point short. And that's quite an achievement for Steve, who's really ridden very well. And this afternoon, Steve Schofield has shown that age is no barrier, because the oldest man in the field, he didn't start Speedway until he's 22, twice ridden in a British final before, but never as well as this. In blue, Steve Schofield. In the red helmet colours, just next to him there, that's Joe Screen, the man who set the stadium alight with that scintillating victory in heat number 20. Joe, just 22 years old and the current World Under-21 champion, a great rider. And Gary Havelock, the world champion 2 years ago, he's on the outside. The battle here for the rostrum places in the 1994 British final is just about to commence. Here they go, and into the first bend, and straight away goes Joe Screen, repeating that form. He's pursued by Steve Schofield in blue. Gary Havelock's on the outside at the rear, but Joe Screen is once again showing the style that won him the heat. Number 20, he's still got that camera on the front of his bike. Joe Screen knows where he's going. The camera is being driven by somebody who knows what his intention is. Joe Screen in red, ahead of Steve Schofield, ahead of Gary Havelock. Havelock's at the back. On this form, Screen deserves to be runner-up, even if he hasn't won the British title. But Joe Screen will keep second place on the rostrum if he holds on to this position for another 1.5 laps. Here he goes to take the flag that says 1 lap to go. Peter Collins. Joe Screen is really in form now.
He certainly is, yeah. He's not going to make any mistakes now. I mean, Steve Schofield's really surprised me today. He's had a great meeting, and but for that last ride, he could have been British champion, but I think Joe's going to sort this second place out now. He's going to tie us up with a wheelie.
There is a wheelie from Joe Screen. Second place to Steve Schofield in that heat, and Gary Havelock at the rear. But it means that after Andy Smith takes his British title, Joe Screen celebrates the runners-up spot with a wonderful wheelie down the back straight. And the not-so-flamboyant Steve Schofield, second place in that heat, but he's on the rostrum for the 1994 British Speedway final. Joe Screen is the man the crowd's applauding at the moment. £32,500 it cost Bradford to take him across the Pennines from Bellevue during the winter. And he's now showing us what a hot Speedway prospect he is. Joe Screen. There we are on top of the rostrum. Andy Smith shakes the hand of Steve Schofield. He shakes the hand of Joe Screen. And the British trophy is lifted and held for the second year running by Andy Smith of Coventry. A marvellous afternoon for him, a marvellous afternoon for the fans, and not a bad afternoon for Joe Screen in second place and Steve Schofield in third place. We'll have more Speedway for you from the Commonwealth final. For the moment, from me, Tony Millard, and Peter Collins, a very good afternoon.